Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we'll explore what the biophages are. One of the most terrifying, complex, and brutal creatures ever conceived in science fiction is the biophages, a biological aberration that embodies the horror of uncontrolled mutation and survival at any cost. These aren't just deformed, bloodthirsty monsters, but organisms designed by a relentless virus that turns humans into living nightmares. That's why in this video, I will explain in detail the history and origins of the biophages. To do this, I will give you a summary of their history in the game. Then I will talk about their physical appearance, their personality, their incredible abilities, and how you can defeat these creatures. In the year 2319, humanity had expanded its reach beyond Earth, establishing colonies in various parts of space, including Callisto, one of Jupiter's moons. This progress was made possible thanks to the investment of a group of scientists from Chicago who allocated large sums of money to research in biotechnology and artificial intelligence. Over time, the data collected from these investigations were used by the United States government to promote space exploration, leading to the colonization of Callisto, Europa, and other moons of Jupiter. To manage these territories, the United Jupiter Company (UJC) was created, an organization responsible for regulating life in these colonies and ensuring their security. However, what few knew was that deep beneath Callisto, the first colonists found a vast underground ocean. During an excavation, they discovered the body of a gigantic alien creature that harbored parasitic larvae. Upon contact with humans, these larvae infected the miners, transforming them into irrational monsters known as biophages. Attracted by this discovery, scientists began experimenting with the infection, finding that it accelerated the biological evolution of its hosts. The experiment spiraled out of control when one of the colonists achieved a successful symbiosis with the parasite, maintaining their intelligence while gaining superhuman abilities. This individual was dubbed Subject Zero, but was killed during an attempted containment. His death became the foundation of the Callisto Protocol, a project led by Warden Duncan Cole, with the goal of finding a new Subject Zero, now called Subject Alpha. To cover up these experiments, the UJC built the Black Iron Prison on the ruins of the destroyed colony, using prisoners as test subjects in a new series of controlled outbreaks. Jacob Lee, a cargo transporter for the United Jupiter Company, worked alongside his partner Max Barrow on routine deliveries. On their last mission, they were transporting a cargo destined for Callisto, unaware that inside it were containers with biophages larvae. Max, worried about the nature of the shipment, tried to warn Jacob, but Jacob chose not to question it and focused on completing the job. While traveling through space, their ship was attacked by insurgents from the Outer Way, led by Danny Nakamura. During the confrontation, the ship lost control and crashed onto the icy surface of Callisto. Max died on impact, leaving Jacob as the sole survivor. Shortly after, they were rescued by the Black Iron Prison security forces, commanded by Captain Leon Ferris, who arrested both Jacob and Danny under orders from the enigmatic director, Warden Cole. Without trial or explanation, Jacob was imprisoned and subjected to a forced neural implant procedure before losing consciousness. Jacob woke up hours later in the midst of utter chaos. The prison was in ruins, with inmates transforming into grotesque monstrosities that massacred guards and prisoners alike. Disoriented and unable to understand what was happening, Jacob fought his way through until he found Elias Porter, a prisoner who had been at Black Iron for years and knew its infrastructure. They decided to team up to escape. Elias helped Jacob navigate the ducts and access restricted areas. During their journey, Jacob discovered that the outbreak was not an accident, but the result of secret experiments happening within the prison. While searching for an escape route, Ferris intercepted them and threw Elias to the surface of Callisto, condemning him to die in the extreme cold storm. Devastated but determined to escape, Jacob continued his journey until he reunited with Danny Nakamura. Despite their initial animosity, Danny and Jacob came to an agreement upon discovering that the outbreak was directly related to the cargo he had been transporting. Seeking answers, they accessed Black Iron's files and found Dr. Caitlin Mahler, a scientist who was aware of Warden Cole's experiments. Mahler revealed that the Biophages virus originated from a massive creature found years ago that infected the first colonists of Callisto, killing thousands of people. Instead of halting their research, the UJC decided to continue their tests at Black Iron, using prisoners as test subjects. Cole's objective was to create a Subject Alpha, a human capable of controlling the virus instead of succumbing to its destructive effects. Determined to end it all, Jacob infiltrated Black Iron's secret laboratories, where he encountered none other than Ferris, who had been deliberately infected with the virus and had transformed into a stronger, more lethal being. After a fierce battle, Jacob managed to defeat him and extracted his DNA to synthesize a cure that would save Danny, who had begun showing signs of infection. With the prison on the brink of collapse, Jacob confronted Warden Cole, who tried to convince him that the experiment must continue in the name of human evolution. Jacob refused, and then Dr. Mahler activated Black Iron's self-destruct sequence, ensuring that the horrors of the prison would be eradicated. In a final sacrifice, Jacob helped Danny escape in an evacuation ship with a sample of the virus while he stayed behind. But when it seemed everything had ended, Jacob received a transmission from Dr. Mahler, suggesting that he still had a chance to survive. What Jacob didn't know was that by letting Danny escape, he was attacked and overrun by dozens of biophages, which ultimately led to his death, tearing his body apart. However, since the neural link with Danny remained active, Dr. Mahler placed Jacob in a simulation where he had to fight against biophages to stay alive. The doctor needed to send all the research data to Danny so that she would have evidence of what had happened, but that would take time. So she needed Jacob to stay alive even if it was all an illusion. In the end, we see Jacob's final moments as his broken body powers down, with debris falling on him and the doctor, bringing an end, for now, to this deadly and horrific experiment. Now that we've thoroughly covered his story, I want to talk about the physical appearance of the biophages, what we know about their personality and behavior, and I'll explain their incredible abilities and how you could survive against these creatures. The biophages are grotesque and terrifying creatures, the result of a viral infection that breaks down and reconstructs the human body into monstrous forms. Although their appearance varies depending on the progression of the infection, they all share disturbing traits. Their skin becomes pale and sickly, covered with blackened veins that protrude from their torn flesh. Their bodies are plagued with bulbous tumors and fleshy protrusions, giving the impression of a mutation out of control. The limbs of the infected often elongate unnaturally, with bones piercing through the skin to form sharp claws, while their hands and feet deform into structures adapted to tear flesh with brutal inhumanity. The faces of the biophages reflect their horrific transformation. In many cases, they completely lose their human features, with exposed skulls, dislocated jaws, and mouths filled with irregular and sharp teeth. Some individuals develop additional slits on their face or other parts of their body, as if the infection is reorganizing their anatomical structure with no fixed pattern. In the more advanced states, the mutation becomes even more extreme, with bodies generating spiny tentacles, additional appendages, and bony growths that act as improvised armor. These mutations not only make them more lethal, but also transform them into versions that are increasingly difficult to eliminate. The flesh of the biophages is in a constant state of decomposition, secreting viscous fluids that emit a nauseating stench. Their tissues appear to be in an unstable balance between regeneration and decay, allowing them to survive lethal wounds and, in some cases, regenerate amputated limbs. Some specimens may transform even further, if not quickly eliminated, evolving into more resilient and monstrous versions of themselves. With each mutation, the biophages drift further from their humanity, becoming biological horrors designed to hunt, kill, and propagate their infection relentlessly. The biophages are beings completely consumed by the infection, transformed into monsters whose sole purpose is to attack, kill, and spread the parasite that created them. Their behavior is purely instinctive, with extreme aggression that drives them to charge at any living being without hesitation. They show no fear or signs of self-preservation, making them incredibly dangerous enemies who are difficult to stop. Their movements vary depending on their degree of mutation. Some stagger erratically, as if their bodies are still adapting to the transformation, while others move with terrifying speed and ferocity. They don't seem to feel pain, even when receiving fatal wounds, making them even harder to halt. Despite their apparent lack of intelligence, the biophages can be surprisingly cunning. They are capable of stalking their prey in the dark, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Some exhibit more refined predatory behavior, hiding in the shadows or using ventilation ducts to ambush their victims. At times, they may act in groups, surrounding their targets and attacking from multiple directions, suggesting that the infection grants them a sort of cooperative hunting instinct. Additionally, the more evolved biophages have developed terrifying capabilities, such as accelerated tissue regeneration, allowing them to survive severe injuries and become even more resilient if not immediately eliminated. Some variants of biophages have mutated to the point of developing more advanced combat strategies. There are specimens that can alter the structure of their body, extending additional limbs or hardening their skin to become almost impenetrable. Others can launch infectious projectiles or release toxins into the air, turning any area into a deadly trap. In the most extreme cases, the infected may even merge with their surroundings, forming masses of twisted flesh and tentacles that turn the area into a living labyrinth of death and despair. Together, the biophages are the worst imaginable nightmare, an unstoppable horde of bloodthirsty creatures capable of adapting, evolving, and turning any place into a hell of biological horror. The biophages possess a variety of terrifying abilities that make them extremely lethal enemies. Their superhuman strength allows them to crush bones, break through weak surfaces, and throw their prey with ease. Additionally, some develop sharp bone claws capable of piercing armor and tissue with brutal precision. Their resilience is another of their most unsettling traits, as they can withstand devastating wounds and continue attacking without showing signs of pain or fatigue. One of their most dangerous abilities is their accelerated regeneration. Many biophages can recover amputated limbs in a matter of seconds or develop new bone and flesh structures that reinforce their anatomy. Some, if not eliminated quickly, mutate into even more powerful forms, with denser musculature, additional limbs, or sharp tentacles that give them superior attack range. Their speed varies depending on the mutation, but the most developed ones can move at great speed, lunging at their prey with unpredictable movements. They also possess great agility, able to move through narrow ducts, scale surfaces with ease, or maneuver in confined spaces without difficulty. Furthermore, their altered biology allows them to resist extreme conditions, surviving in hostile environments such as extremely low temperatures, oxygen-deprived atmospheres, or even prolonged exposure to radiation. Some develop hardened bone protrusions that act as natural armor, reducing the impact of enemy attacks. Lastly, certain biophages have demonstrated the ability to release infectious substances, either through corrosive fluids or viral spores, making them highly dangerous contagion hotspots. This ability allows them to spread the infection rapidly, ensuring that the virus continues mutating and creating new forms of lethal life. Surviving a biophage's attack is no easy task, but with the right strategy and equipment, it is possible to make it out alive. These creatures are tireless, relentless, and extremely aggressive, meaning they won't hesitate to attack as soon as they detect you. They feel no fear or pain, making conventional deterrent methods useless. Additionally, depending on the mutation, they can become faster, stronger, and more resilient as the fight progresses. To face them, you need to know their weak points, take advantage of the environment, and most importantly, never let your guard down. If you can't avoid the confrontation, the best strategy is to keep your distance and prioritize attacks directed at their limbs. Removing their legs or arms can destabilize them and give you a crucial advantage. Firearms are highly effective if you know where to shoot. A precise shot to the head can take them down quickly, but in many cases, even a fatal wound won't stop them immediately. If you have a high-caliber weapon, aim at the areas where the virus has caused visible mutations, such as the inflamed or fleshy protuberant areas. If you only have melee weapons, you need to keep moving constantly and strike at the right moment. Blunt blows to the head can temporarily stun them, giving you the opportunity to finish them off. However, hitting indiscriminately without strategy will only drain your energy and expose you to lethal counterattacks. The ideal approach is to wait for the biophages to charge at you and dodge at the last moment to counterattack with a precise strike. If the biophages shows signs of advanced mutation, you must act immediately. Some variants can regenerate or develop new appendages during the fight, making them even more deadly. If you see tentacles emerging from their torso or their skin changing texture, use explosives or high-damage weapons to finish them off before they complete their transformation. Ignoring these signs can result in an even harder fight with lower chances of survival. The environment can be your best ally if you know how to use it to your advantage. In closed spaces, mobility is limited, which can be dangerous if you get cornered. However, you can use reinforced doors to seal off areas and buy yourself time, or force the biophages to go through narrow spaces where you can face them one by one instead of fighting multiple at the same time. If you find yourself in an area with active traps, use them to your advantage. Some facilities have electrical panels, ventilation ducts, or security systems that can be used to eliminate or slow down the biophages. By leading them to dangerous zones, you can reduce their numbers without wasting ammunition or exposing yourself too much to direct combat. If the confrontation occurs in an open space, the key is mobility. Never stay in one place for too long, as the biophages can surround you quickly. Use obstacles to put barriers between you and them, and if possible, lead them to areas where you can eliminate them more efficiently. If you find yourself without weapons or in a situation where fighting is not a good option, the best alternative is evasion. Biophages primarily detect their prey through sound and movement, so moving silently and avoiding noise sources is key to remaining unnoticed. If you need to move near them, stay in the shadows and use distractions. You can throw objects to make noise in another direction and divert their attention. If they detect you, don't try to fight them without anything to defend yourself. Run, find a safe place, and block their access if possible. Some biophages can climb or break through weak doors, so an improvised hiding spot is only useful if it allows you to buy time to find a better escape route. If a biophages manages to grab you, the fight is inevitable. In this case, your only option is to try to free yourself and counterattack with any blunt object you have at hand. Strike their most vulnerable points, such as the eyes or jaw, and try to get away as quickly as possible. There are mistakes you should avoid when fighting these creatures. Don't underestimate their resilience. Many biophages can survive severe injuries. Make sure they're completely neutralized before lowering your guard. Don't waste ammunition. Shooting without precision will leave you without bullets at the worst moment. So aim carefully and make every shot count. Don't stay in one place. Being static in a fight against biophages is a death sentence. Keep moving constantly and use the environment to your advantage. Don't ignore mutation signs. If you see a biophages starting to change, eliminate it immediately before it becomes more dangerous. Don't engage without a plan. Attacking without strategy will only put you at greater risk. Assess the situation before acting. Fighting biophages is an extreme survival test, and every confrontation can be lethal if you're not prepared. Whether using weapons, the environment, or stealth, the most important thing is to stay calm and act intelligently. The difference between life and death isn't just about strength, it's about strategy. And that's all we know so far about the creatures known as biophages. When I first heard about these beings, I immediately thought of the necromorphs from Dead Space, but I like them much more because instead of arriving after everyone had already been infected, here we're part of the main story. Plus, I liked the mechanics in this game much better. But let me know your opinion in the comments. Did you already know about the biophages? Do you think these creatures could actually exist? And finally, if you encountered these beings, what would you do? Share your answers to these questions and your general opinion on the biophages from the Callisto Protocol. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, share it to support the channel, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos.